Ooh, we
Oh,
got a little countdown timer. How about that? All
ooh,
right.
where's my music?
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Estate Uncensored. The Zillow Killer returns to slay and drop the hammer once again. We're talking about all things Facebook lead generation online without the help of external third-party tools and companies that just want to take your money and basically sell your own leads back to you. So we've got a bunch of stuff to get into today. I know there's a big announcement from Facebook they don't have time to get into there because they're announcing that essentially Facebook is Thanos. I don't know. It's something like that. That was basically the gist of it. Like, hey, they're going to take over the entire universe. And so I'm pretty sure that Mark Zuckerberg wants to snap of fingers and essentially turn off whatever half of the human race doesn't still use Facebook.
Hmm.
So there's a bunch of stuff that we could get into. But anyway, Greg McDaniel, the
Woo!
junior Grand Master, you're in your co-pilot seat where you so belong, very, very far away from me in
Oh,
person
I
because you're a
always say
large human. You make me look small by comparison, and I'm not a small guy. What's up
there are
today?
so many jokes on that one. But you know what? I'm so excited to be here. We are recording on a new system, so everybody kind of give us an idea, kind of the audio and the video quality. Let us know what your thoughts are. Super excited. James and I were in a clubhouse room the other day, and as I always hang out with him, and he hangs out with me, he was dropping some hammer in regards to Facebook's name change. Also, kind of where they want to go with the metaverse, kind of how they want to turn social media into a way different version. So that's why I invited him on. So
James, keep I know you are incredibly busy.
and I look forward to hearing what you got to say. So let everybody know who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why you gave me this incredible hat that says ZillowKiller, which gets conversations going everywhere. And give me your thoughts on life. And by the way, do you think Matt has a heart of, heart, an actual heart or a heart of coal? We need
I
to
don't know how you
understand
so
this.
why you so hard on Matt. It doesn't make sense. Matt smiles more than you do.
No, he does not. No,
Thank
he
you.
does.
Thank you,
You
James.
laugh
I
more,
appreciate that.
but Matt smiles way more than you do.
You liar.
No, it's
And
true.
I've never actually washed anyone's car with rocks, despite Greg's implications to the contrary. I have never once done that. All right, James.
Oh my goodness. All is well, you guys. Always a pleasure to come hang out with you. Like I said, for you, my name is James. I try to come in the sense of a practitioner when I talk about things, especially when it comes to advertising and everything internet based. I kind of live by a simple thesis where I just want our industry to understand that the internet is a presence, not a destination. And the sooner we can at least accept that, when we start to see nuances and changes, it doesn't seem so foreign, right? We don't get these visceral reactions when change happens. So that's kind of my mission, my life goal, and right now I've taken on a new BHAG, which is big, hairy, audacious goal that I want to impact 1 billion people. So whatever it takes to get in front of and impact 1 billion people, not just motivate, inspire, but impact, so we can see change. That's the goal. So I'm here to push impact, and if we can at least bring some uh, just a different perspective of what's possible in the sense of the internet, the changes that we see with Facebook and any other platform. Um, I'd rather you guys see it as a utility and see the value in it before we dismiss it. So that's my vision and goal.
So that's a billion
That
with a B, not a
I've
million with an
skedaddled
M.
past that point, James. You're too late for me on that one. I already dismissed it, but I appreciate it. But now I'm a little bit different. I have many biases towards that already. I just released a podcast quoting was it Jaron Lanier, technology futurist, and what he was saying about social media. So I have all my own thoughts, but that doesn't really extend to paid for agents because that's a different and organic social media and whether you should throw all of your time into and doing stories and doing all this stuff.
Hmm.
I think that's what most think of whether they should jump on social media or not. So you're coming at it from a completely different angle. So correct me
Okay.
if I'm wrong. I don't want to speak for you, but essentially you're helping agents both from the and in the role of a teacher and a guide to do platforms like Facebook, market directly to
Hmm.
buyers, sellers, and essentially skip around of the world and the people that are trying to generate leads and sell agents so that you can generate leads on essentially your own terms with all the stuff that you see Facebook coming down the road, it sounds to me like you feel like it's always going to be a viable, at least for a viable place to generate leads if you're willing to pay for them.
Yeah, I mean, the currency we live in right now is attention and awareness, right? And sometimes we have a way of forgetting that, and we forget that any business, the true leverage is to be able to get the attention and awareness, and especially with our industry, a lot of people are failing not because they're bad at their job or bad at their business or career. It's purely obscurity, right? And if we're willing to see that's the issue first, then when you see the opportunity that these platforms offer, like I said, the I guess you want to say the paradigm that people should take on is we should see them as distribution channels, right? You don't have to use them all, but they are, or they do give you the ability to distribute your message in front of people that that actually want to hear it, right? And it also gives you the ability to kind of cipher through who's actually listening, right? And then you can get deeper down the rabbit hole where, from the audience building, I think I think a lot of our industry has missed or not understanding that the same rules apply in digital as it apply in real life. I'm not going to talk to somebody that's not talking to me, right? So I'm not going to walk up and just run into a conversation. We can see if they're engaged, and if I start engaging and they don't engage back, then we move on, right? And the internet does give you that exact same capability, but on scale, right? Instead of 1-to-1, that conversation go from one to many, and the problem is we I think we get intertwined into the distribution side, which is the business capabilities, and the entertaining side, and we just blend it, and we just throw it in one big ball. And when the entertainment isn't fun anymore, and the business side, we can't kind of split the two apart. We get lost. I just prefer for you guys to see it as distribution, and entertainment is the byproduct. It's just part of the ecosystem.
Something you said right there, James, really kind of hit me. It says, you said if they don't talk to you, you're not going to talk to them back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us, the term thirsty comes to mind immediately because we want everybody to talk to us. But if no one's, if we can't have a mutual conversation, why are we vying for their attention so bad? I mean, why do we want their accolades? Help me
Well,
walk me through that.
that's why when people get into advertising, they say it doesn't work, right? Like a lot of Facebook leads don't work because you're talking to people that's not talking to you, right? And you know, if we would at least take the time to learn what's possible, and like I said, until we take that behavior shift and stop seeing the internet as a place, we're always going to have that type of ideology of like, well, it doesn't work. YouTube ads don't work. Facebook ads don't work. Organic takes too long, and we all know that that's not true. It's not true, right? I mean, at what time in life that we ever have the ability to broadcast a message? Doesn't matter what it is, positive or negative, whenever we want to whoever we want to, and the people that get the message can choose to either stay and listen or move on, right? So you take like movies. There was a time where our stars and the entertainers were given to us. Like we go to the movies and we like who that is, and we choose like, oh, I like this actor, and then we go see all their movies, right? We're at a place now where the internet is offering the world, and they're not giving it to us. We can choose. You know what? Matt is a star to me, and I want to follow everything Matt is doing, and it's way more valuable than than it's just being put in our face, where we have to just, I got to go to this movie to see, and I got to go to this place, and he's on red carpet. No, Matt has the ability to talk to his people however he see fit, and he can be unapologetically himself, and the people can choose. And then when you start to see that utility component, we start to see the value in it, where the attention and awareness is the superpower and the real currency when we talk about the internet and what it offers.
It's an interesting concept. Alec Baldwin the other week shot a person dead on the set of his new show, right? I used to love Alec Baldwin. Now I don't want to go watch his stuff anymore. I was watching Grant Cardone on actually Grant Cardone popped up in a room on Clubhouse. I chose not to go listen to that. It wasn't like this is your 6 channels when you were growing up as a child on TV. You had to pick what was going to be shoved down your throat. I chose not to go do it. I'm like, I'm bored. I'd rather go walk the dog, right? It's an interesting concept. So when you have choice like this, James, and with what Facebook has done with changing their brand and really kind of stepping into the version 3.0 of the internet, where do you see the lead generation and real estate business going, and just businesses in general? Because I mean, you and I were in the same room together yesterday, the day before this recording, and there was so many comments and thoughts and everything else. I mean, how can people wrap their brains around this, right? Because again, it goes back to choice. So you have to create content, and then entertainment is a byproduct, as you said. How would you get someone to choose you in this new platform and then go from the metaverse into the actual real life?
Well, I mean, first, the metaverse has been something that existed for years, right? It's not a new concept, and even with Facebook announcing that it's going to be known as Meta, 9 years ago, it offered Oculus and Oculus Quest, and it went to about 4 versions. And the interesting part about Oculus, we that don't know it only think it's about games, but it's more about engagement and interaction. And games are inside of it, right? And the amazing part about Oculus, to use it, you have to have a Facebook account. So they've already started the indoctrination of their version of the metaverse. What, 4 years ago, they tapped into VR, and it was clunky, right? But they've been testing this for a while, and I think the question I ask myself now, having these agencies, one agency, which is ROAS Consultant, I know will thrive because it specializes in augmented reality, voice-based campaigns, and messenger bots. Then I have another agency, which is Digital Natives, which is predominantly paid advertising. I don't know what the advertising will look like when it comes to the metaverse, because I have to understand that the metaverse has 2 components. It has the hardware and has the software, right? Right now the hardware isn't practical at all, right? It's more an intimate thing with home, but it's not practical in the sense of outside or anywhere else. So you see, 4 months ago they offered the Ray-Ban, where they just partnered with Ray-Ban. But that Ray-Ban play is more of a behavior play, where I personally believe it's more of a data aggregating side of it, where it's not going to be like a visuals. It's just recording and taking pictures and uploading it to the system. So it's just more data collecting to me, right?
Wait, so hold on, back that up a little bit really quickly. So you're saying that with Ray-Ban partnering, it's not going to be a live stream. So it's not going to walk around like Google Glass or something like that, and you can do live stuff. It's going to be just documenting from your point of view, and then uploading it to a server or something somewhere.
Going to upload it right to Facebook, right to your
Upload it right to Facebook, and then they're going to turn those in. You can turn those into stories. You can turn them into posts. They're just going to data harvest. How's that looking in your opinion?
It's more of an experience, right? I think the bigger play is when you understand what the metaverse is, and then you start to dig deeper and seeing the components that align itself with the metaverse, what blockchain is offering in decentralization, and then of course when we start to look at cryptocurrency and the growth and the popularity of NFTs, how are they going to intertwine all that in a sense where they still have the control that they have, right? Because when you go to blockchain, now we're talking decentralization. You don't control, you don't have the data control that you once had before that, right? So the metaverse play, time will tell, but it's not a new technology at all. At all, it's been here for a while, and there are multiple types of metaverses. It's not just one place. Same thing like blockchains. It's not just one blockchain. There are multiple blockchains. So again, to see the biggest practical use that I know of is being able to create the experience for the consumer without you being there. But it goes back to the question of hardware, right? If
Wait,
I can keep,
have an experience with for the consumer with you out without you being there. That's a fascinating concept.
yeah, I mean, being able to show a property. I mean, we see Metaport plays in that vein, but that's still clunky, right? It's there, but it's not. I can't feel anything from that. It's just there, right? That's a very infinite way of looking at it. EXP, right? They have their own metaverse. It's cartoonish, but it's in that type of vein,
It
right?
is.
So
It
when you
really
start
is.
to see and you start to see the metaverse on a more realistic level where I can actually, it feels real, right? That's the game changer. And to be able to show property and take people through a property, even staging property or making changes in the sense of, well, they like the room, but they don't like the color of the room, and giving them, okay, well, here's an interior decorator, and we can give you some different palettes. Try it and see what it looks like. Let's take
Huh.
your furniture and put it here, right? The decision making is more, it speeds up the process and the thinking. And when you see the components of metaverse and everything that's being offered, business is no longer linear, right? It begins to be exponential in a sense of how fast you can do business now.
So there's a
It's
company called
interesting.
Box Brownie out of Australia, and they can do digital staging. So basically, what we're saying is that the metaverse is going to take this and put it on steroids on every level. And you and I both understand what an NFT is. Matt doesn't. So can you explain what an NFT is for Matt?
Matt knows what it is. Matt just doesn't like it, but it's a non-fungible token. And best way to see that is non-fungible is a pretty way of saying it, saying exclusive, right? What makes NFTs so valuable is not the visual side in the sense of the JPEG, but if you want to say serial number or the ownership. There aren't a lot of them, right? Where you look at Van Gogh, Vanguard, is it Van
Van
Gogh, the
Gogh.
artist?
Van
Right?
Gogh.
There's one of. That's what that is. But then I say, go to IKEA. Well, there's a variety to choose from in the sense of artwork. So it doesn't hold they can raise the price, but it doesn't hold the value because it's still a commodity. NFTs have a high level exclusivity in a sense of how many and who can own it, and it has its own subculture that are there are billions that are invested into it. So when you have a culture connected to a product, it doesn't matter if people believe in it. It's like religion, right? You ain't got to believe in God. You don't need you to, right? But there are believers that don't matter what the atheists or anybody else say or do. So when you have a subculture connected to a product, it really doesn't matter who gets on board, and those that are paying attention, like companies like Proppy, right? They initiate their very first NFT to the real estate industry, right? But
What, you said the name was Proppy?
yeah, let me get it right for you,
Okay.
because
Because I'm curious with this.
my English is trash, but I'll get it right for
But
you.
you're such a good-looking man. It's okay.
That's the workaround. so they're so vain.
What's so funny?
But the company is called, and we're working on trying to get the CEO to Proppy, yeah, Propy, and they initiated the very first NFT. But here's something for you: when you can start thinking about fractional ownership, that's where NFTs become powerful. Where $1 million condo, right? But then if they wanted to turn that million dollar condo into 5 NFTs of ownership, that $1 million condo have now turned into, or could turn into, 3, 4, $5 million in value, right? Just by giving that level of ownership. So you think of the possibility of where it can go on the real estate side and like fractional ownership, and what makes the NFTs powerful is their contracts. Like when the contract is wrote and the ledger is out and it hits the blockchain, it's ironclad. It ain't no addendums after that, right? Like it's solid. So the control, the security, the exclusivity, and the ease is what makes things like NFTs, cryptocurrency. That's the appeal. But unfortunately, sometimes we hear digital and we we overcomplicate it. Like we try and process like how is that possible, and it's hard. It's very possible when you're willing to accept exponential growth versus linear growth. Just like compounded interest. Like when you tell a person, you need to be investing. I say that to everybody. You need to be investing if you're an entrepreneur. And listen, if you got a child that's 5, 10 years old, put $50 a month into some type of index fund and keep putting it there. That's it. $50 a month, no major investment. And if God be God and you live to see that child get to 50, 60 years old, he or she can mess her whole life up. But by the time you go, you will be leaving that baby over $3-4 million. Right?
Damn, there's so many ways to go with that, and you're 100% right on this. I mean, Matt and his 3 obese insulin-sucking troll babies. I mean,
It's $150 a month. That's a little
easy.
I know.
Oh, you have to do that, Matt, quickly. I mean, their insulin bills are going to go through the roof.
That's right. So,
But I mean,
we don't know exactly what we don't know what the advertising landscape is going to look like. Is it if let's say the hardware catches up to the software, and essentially you end up with some variation of what looks like Ready Player One. Yeah, there are these virtual environments, and of course that's like I already see this in video games. Like you can literally stick. There's the possibilities are endless for what types of advertising.
Oculus Quest is doing that now.
Yeah, I mean some of it will be obnoxious and to the point where people don't like it, and then we'll find some happy medium where there's enough that people are willing to tolerate it. But it's like anything else. It'll be the stuff that'll probably work best is the stuff that blends in. Just like you to Ogilvy, his best performing ads that were inserted in magazines looked like the rest of the magazine content, like it blends in. So like everything that's old, everything is new is new again. So things like that will have the advertising. You'll find a place to advertise in the universe. And it's just a matter of what people are wanting to tolerate, and the best stuff that typically will work is the stuff that feels organic to whatever that environment looks like. It'd be like putting up a billboard in the EXP environment, like that. It replicates the physical environment, so billboard makes perfect sense. It may not get you, like the difference would be you don't just see it and then you have to remember to dial a toll-free number. Now you can just you can click it, select it, and go right into somebody's funnel. Just removes friction.
Well, I tell you that I think what people aren't seeing, just even the landscape of advertising, every platform is structuring their advertising based off the culture that the platform is offering, right?
Okay.
And this is why we can't just snowball when we say, I'm going to advertise. Like, if someone told you take a piece of content and chop it up and put it here and put it here, and they realize the pillar content is performing way better than all of the little pieces of isolated content, it's because it wasn't built for that culture, right?
Yeah.
Like TikTok, you do a TikTok video and you try and put it to Reels, 9 times out of 10 it's going to flop because that's not the culture. It's the format and short form vertical base, but that's not the culture. So
there's that much of a difference from TikTok to Reels?
Yeah.
Really?
It's very interesting. I mean, you'll get the view. You know what? You have to question. You're getting views, and you're getting some engagement, but the result expectation isn't there, right? And sometimes the vanity of getting the views and engagement is like, I'm getting the attention, but me and you both know when we talk about direct response, we expect something to happen after that, right? So it's a weird duality when we think about how we're willing to accept the vanity side versus the result side.
Yeah,
which is
well, people are more thirsty on social media, from my experience. They want to be seen, and they want to be visible. They want the opportunity to walk down the street and be recognized. And the results, in their opinion, from my experience, that is a byproduct. When in reality, what is up is really down, what is down is really up. So you need to put that on its head and say, okay, we need to focus on content. I mean, not content, but just results versus, visibility, because they'll both play out pretty easily. And something I want to ask you really quickly, because I really want to go back and I want to talk about NFTs just for one quick second, and we can move on, because Matt's toes are twitching, and I understand that he wants to move on with the content.
Why you do that to Matt all the time?
Because he just takes it, and he lets me do it. And he's one of my best friends and business partners, and we pick on each other all the time. NFTs. So let's say James. Let's say you're the typical real estate agent. You have up and down years, right? Could you turn your home into an NFT and do a shared ownership? And so let's
Yeah,
say it's a
very
$1 million
possible.
home, and
Very,
let's
very
say you sell
possible.
it off for $100,000 a share. So you take, $500,000, and then you share your time, and then I would buy a part of it, Matt would buy a part of it, and then we do like around Rosie in the neighborhood and just kind of just live in different places or own in different portions of it, and you can do it with multifamilies or how's that lay out? Because I have a friend of mine, Bob, great guy. He has a 5 unit building here in San Francisco for 2.5 million. Now, two of those properties are occupied. The other three are not. So if you did an NFT on that 5 unit building, everyone could buy a shared portion of that. So it's kind of like a vacation rental. So where vacation rentals and Airbnbs, what are they going to do with this with NFTs stepping in? Or are Airbnbs and everything else NFTs already, or could they shift into that? Because now, instead of having to buy into a resort somewhere in Mexico or Europe, I just go down to Long Beach, or I'll head over to New Jersey or Florida or Maine, and I just buy a portion of it, and then I get my time. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, you're seeing it more as like occupying, partial
Okay.
occupation. I mean, occupying, I think is what I'm
Occupying,
saying,
yeah.
right? It's NFT is more of an investment, right? It's more of
Okay.
a buy and hold type thing where,
Oh,
for
so it's an investor
appreciation.
side.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that could be offered in the fractional ownership. Five people can own it, and one person can live in it just with the agreement with the other five. They can't make any adjustments or changes to it, right? So it's a
So it's like
very interesting
so it's
play.
it's like it's like a family inheritance. If you have 5 children in a family, you're blessed with four beautiful children. So they would be the NFT owners of the property you currently live in. And if one wanted to sell, they had to get the agreement of the other three for it to sell, correct? And then they would share
Well,
equal or
it
equitable
it it,
shares.
it probably wouldn't even sell, right? It would just sell the NFT. They wouldn't have to sell a property anymore. They can just sell the
Their
fractional ownership,
portion.
right? But again, we're talking down the road. I mean, there's a company. She's out in Arizona. We just had her inside the Circle of Excellence a couple weeks ago, and Truth Realty, and over 80% of her transactions are cryptocurrency. Now, the unique part about that is when you can see the proposition or the marketing proposition that it allows, where you can market a property for dollar amount, and you can offer it again in a crypto or some type of Bitcoin amount. Now you're no longer just talking to a local market, you're talking to a global market because there are multiple people that's inside this environment or part of this culture that only purchase with cryptocurrency. Now the fascinating part about that transactions, or when we talk about Bitcoin transactions, they're massive. Like they're not small at all. We're talking about multi-million-dollar transactions. You're not buying toilet tissue with cryptocurrency, right? I mean, the dollar is, if you want to put truth to it, the dollar's about 80 cents. We don't say that, but the dollar's worth about 80 cents, right?
Or less.
One Bitcoin today is worth $62,000, right? We're talking completely different in a sense of value, um, on an financial standpoint. So when you talk about the transactions that are happening, it's a easy way to improve your marketing side to the luxury market because that's all who's buying it. Like that's all who's using these type of transactions, and they understand the ease, the security, and the I guess the how comfortable it is, in a sense of convenience of being able to. I ain't got to worry about a wire. What's your wallet number? Here you go. How much is it? 3 million. Here you go. Boom. And we can do that right there. I don't need to go through the whole waiting for a wire to hit, and it's right there. And she's working on how to clean up or make the title part faster, right? I mean, she talks about some of her transactions she's done in a day, right? A day where they're seeing the property they like. As she's going to the closing table to get the documents, they're negotiating price and closing right then and there in the sense of the agreement. The agreement is making it to the Ethereum world where the contract will be, and of course, when they hit the table, it's more of how much is what do we agree upon, and that transfer is happening like right there.
I mean,
It's
you and I
awesome.
spoke last night for about an hour and change, and you blew my mind on this. My mind melted after that, and I went and had to have a beer because I was just like, what in the shit did James just tell me? Because it's fascinating to understand. Like, let's say Matt, Julie, and his three obese little troll babies were out looking at a house with me. We liked the house. There was a concrete floors, of course. And then all of a sudden on the way back, they just busted out their crypto wallet, and we go to. I mean, this is the part that I have a question on. Is it in a escrow state or an attorney state that can be done in one day, or is there a
I
difference
don't
on
know.
that?
I have to find out. I didn't even ask that. I was just fascinated with the process
Yeah, it's
Well,
fascinating.
it
of
makes
how
you wonder
fast.
if they even bother with that. I
Yeah,
mean,
that
I mean,
exactly.
it could get that. I mean, to that point, if we're talking about 20-year-olds that are, like the real innovation is going to come from the kid who has a YouTube channel who bought a house the traditional way and then goes, fuck that, I'm not doing that again. I'm selling my house through NFTs, and just goes, it's screw it. Like, hey, like let's sell it to somebody else that also made their money in crypto, and they just exchange wallet numbers, they do it, and then leaves the house.
Or
Yeah, it's
they wouldn't even have to leave the house. I mean, they could just literally meet online, view it, through Oculus, and be like, "Yeah, it's mine." Boom, done, done. But where's the contract come in? Where does the legal documents come in? That's where
And
my
she
question.
did mention that the documents are a little bit different when it's a transaction through crypto, right? But she's working right now trying to tighten that up, um, where it can when that happens and when everything gets to a point where it's more streamlined, and for those who understand the possibility of where it can go and those that are willing to use the currency just for the convenience, you'll see a lot more houses moving at a faster level, at a higher price point, with the convenience of a person not having to leave their home, right? We can do it from right here. And it's simple as what's your wallet? You know what I mean? I don't need to be there for the signatures. I mean, we even just as something simple as, DocuSign and things of that nature, it still exists. So we're curious to know how the signatures happen and where it goes. But I do know when it gets to a point where contracts are moving in the blockchain, the security, the protection, and you get these people that I decide I'm not gonna buy it. Oh no, the hell you're not, right? Agreement is agreement.
Right.
There's no changing this shit now. Like it's a
it's
go.
done.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna cut down a lot of that playing with you and the looky loos and people like I changed my mind.
So here's a question for me, well, for you. There's a Disney movie made in like the early 2000s called Wall-E, and when it comes to this, Matt,
I hear
stop
what you're
rubbing
saying,
your
fat
eyes.
people.
Matt, stop rubbing
Yeah,
your eyes and
This
pay attention
lighting
to the
is
show.
killing me. Yeah.
The thing is that like this is fascinatingly interesting content, right? And it makes life incredibly easy. But like you said, James, it's the end of the movie when everybody wakes up out of their avatars and they're all fat and they're all laying on their little beds, and all of a sudden they start interacting with another human being again. And they're like, "Well, fuck, this is pretty awesome." Yeah, I used to be a skinny hot chick or a buff, ripped, rich dude in the avatars. There has to be some place where there's going to be a splitting point where, yes, we want to get into our avatars. We want to get in this digital world. We want to have all this cryptocurrency, make life super simple. But how do we distinguish between reality and then digital life? Because, I mean, from what I've understood, if you can shift cash back and forth extremely simply, and you can be anybody and anything you want in these digital worlds, in this metroverse or metaverse or whatever it's called. When do you see this coming to a head? Because we're humans. We need real interaction, not having sex with, the porn star that you've always seen. And that was actually, I'm referencing that from the room that we were in
Hmm.
yesterday,
Hmm.
which sounds fantastic, right? You're like, oh yeah, that dude, that chick. But in reality, that's not real. And your brain at some point is going to fraction, and it's not going to know the difference between reality and fiction. So with the ability to transfer cash back and forth, and the ability to live in a digital universe, how dangerous do you think that is for both real estate and just overall life? Because it's so easy.
I mean, I stress to everybody in all areas. We still have to know that we have agency in our lives. Right? We have the ability to choose, and sometimes we take these platforms and we look at it in the sense of being absolute, like, ooh, it's taking over the world. You do not have to log in. Like you
Sure.
gotta go on Facebook if you don't want to, right? Do I think this is going to be uh, like we see in Wally and Ready Player One, where the entire world is just locked into a headset? I doubt that, right? Because we can't even decide if we want to get a vaccine or not. Like the simplest things we can't figure out. So to put a person where this is how you have to engage. Nah, I mean Facebook is powerful, but not that powerful to make everybody move that direction. But for us that are willing to, look at the future and accept the future, but we still understand we have agency, and here we win, right? But I do understand your point of some people will get lost, and we'll see. Like I mean, we had driving cars, and then driving cars started tearing shit up. It's like, wait a minute, we don't want them driving by themselves for too long. Like, we got to make some sense. So, I think we're still in the testing phase, and my biggest thing is before we take this visceral reaction of no, 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 I rather see the possibilities and find the utility in it, and at the same time, yeah, we can look at the horror in it, but at what time in the world outside of now that I can talk to people that I know and care about without leaving the comfort of my home, right,
Yeah.
and still engage
Yeah, like we're doing right now. I mean, we're
right
recording
now?
audio and video, and the three of us, well, Matt and I've met. James, you and I will meet. I mean, we had a conversation about some stuff that came up yesterday with your event and everything else. I may or may not. I am still working those details
No,
out.
don't worry about
Just
it. I
so you know.
got you.
But it is interesting on so many levels with this stuff because what you just said was very powerful, and something you referenced yesterday, and I thought was a very interesting concept. I mean, 10 years ago, if you told me I was going to have the power of the world in my pocket and I could do banking, I could talk to my friends, I could go on the internet, and I could do maps, you know, at the click of a button, I'd be like, dude,
You
you are
joke.
mother effing crazy. Like that
You
shit
joke.
ain't gonna happen. Now, it's just like, what's the newest version that's coming out? So, again, embracing the shift in life is a powerful thing when you shift the way you think, because you're like, instead of being afraid of it, embrace it. Say, how can I benefit my people, my friends, my family, my clients around this technology, inform them about it, and then harness it for good, not for evil. And I think it's going to be an incredibly interesting thing. Again, the room yesterday talking about doing surgeries, or doing all kinds of other things, virtually, and people being able to feel the sensation, like the doctors being able to feel the organs or something like that. I mean, shoot, it sounds
I
like
mean,
an
it
opportunity.
it 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 it, it broadens the imagination of what's possible, right? I mean, how much are we willing to accept and allow? I don't know, right? But it if we're willing to, as entrepreneurs, see the new skill, which helps us develop the utility, then we become more valuable, and
Well,
that's the game, right? So
it,
as
It
long as
is.
we're not willing to run from
I
it.
mean, instead of back in the days, James, you remember when you were a real estate agent and
Hmm.
you had to get the Thomas Brothers guide out,
Hmm.
and you had to flip through all those crazy pages and find your
Well,
way
I
through
wasn't that.
stuff.
I wasn't that far back.
Oh, I was. I was.
I wasn't that far back. I had the
But
MLS by the time I came to the game.
you lucky fool. But I mean, I remember doing that, having to print them off, highlight them, and then staple them together, and then for each property, and find my way through town and everything else. But now you upload some information to a client with all the and they can have a physical sensation in regards to seeing the properties. You can sit on the couch and watch Netflix all day. Not that you should. I'm just saying for the analogy. Um, And you're going to have the opportunity to spend more time with your kids, with your dogs, with your cats, your goldfish. I mean, mowing the backyard, which, by the way, I have to go do right after this interview because it is a disaster back there. But spending time with the people and things that you love to do while still conducting business in an efficient manner, which I love.
Well, I mean, like I said, but in the '70s, they talked about be able to send electric documents or mail, and email was a joke, right? It's very practical now. 1980s, right? The internet will be a fleeting fade. It's a fad. It's not a thing, right? We started to talk about banking. Oh, you'll be able to do transaction in banking. No, I'll never do that. I don't trust it. We don't even bank from our computers anymore. We prefer to do it from our phones. So, the level of where we've evolved and adapted to. I mean, I think a lot of times we pull because we don't want to accept the change, but the change isn't as complicated as we think. Nobody had a user manual to jump on Facebook or Instagram. It was very intuitive, right? Our phones, it was very intuitive. So the way things are being built now is being built for the user behavior to easily adjust to it. Right? It's making it very, making it very easy. It is a change, but being able to utilize it, I just want our industry to stop embracing the nostalgia, right, and accept where things are. Right?
Yeah, but the average agent is a 55-year-old female.
But there's no excuse for that. Like I really be trying to say that, like,
Right.
oh, they just older. You have a business to run, right? And that's why that
True.
that ideology or that type of narrative that we talk about is why agents fail, right? We've given them we given them the room to fail, and it's okay to each his own. I ain't trying to take anything from it. When people be like, "Well, I'm not tech savvy," dude, nobody is. Everything we do there's some learning component to it, right? But in truth, there's no user manuals for much of anything anymore.
Dude, I use tech every single day. And I got yelled up on my girlfriend yesterday going, "You're a tech retard." And I mean retard, and like I'm deficient, not in a derogatory way. And because I couldn't figure out how to do something, and she was able to do it really quickly. And I'm like, gosh, I thought I was pretty good at this, but I guess I just miss a few pieces. So I guess the note on that is that no matter where you guys stand when it comes to tech or kind of this whole metaverse and like kind of where it's going and so on and so forth, like James was saying, just embrace it. Just learn the change. Learn how to grow. Just go with it. And Matt, why are you being so fucking quiet? I mean, I seriously think you're plotting my
Because I don't pay attention to this stuff, honestly. I just don't. I had a gentleman on my other podcast yesterday. I'm going to bring him on Real Estate Uncensored, and he was giving me some resources for crypto and stuff like that. And that's fascinating, but it's already because the underlying foundational stuff is already beyond my. Yes, it's not that I don't have the raw intellectual horsepower that if I dedicated myself that I couldn't understand it, because that's a no-brainer. I obviously could. The interest level isn't there to where I want to spend my mental horsepower there learning yet, but I will. There's going to be things that do catch my interest, and just NFTs and stuff like that aren't among them yet. I am careful and aware. I tend to gravitate towards the things that don't change. And to gravitate towards the things that do change, right? So I'm already in that way, but I'm also aware of it enough to know that I may be one of the middle to late adopters on certain things, but I will adopt in one. I'm only going to adopt the stuff that makes my life better. At this point, there's a lot of things that will not make your life better, and we've gotten, I think, sidetracked in technology development for about the last years. Ever since Facebook figured out like the ads model, like a lot of smart people that should have been doing other things got diverted in building apps to get attention and personal data and monetize it. Like we lost a lot of time essentially, and to people building apps like that rather than doing things that, like you talk about with the blockchain and things that could have really made better. But I am mindful, much as I tend to be a middle to late adopter, I am going to stay intellectually and emotionally flexible as I get older. that
Well, Matt,
not the things that are they're going to come along are not automatically bad. It's going to be neutral, and it's up to me to learn enough about them to pick and choose the things that will improve my life versus the things.
Matt, you and I remember, I think it was a year or two ago. I'm not sure when it was. We interviewed a gentleman. Yeah, this is the guy. The first time he was wearing wireless earbuds, and they failed on us in the middle of the
Oh
interview.
yeah, I remember him.
But he sold the first blockchain escrow company, and he had just closed on that, and that was years ago. So
Yeah,
imagine
it's
where
like
that's
2 years ago.
going now. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been.
that's. I mean, obviously the real estate industry is going to change to a huge extent just in the next. I mean, who knows, 10 years, 15 years.
Oh,
I mean, I've always felt that something would come along. Maybe it'll instead of an app, but I felt like somebody like a Zillow had the chance to really streamline the experience for consumers. I, like they're trying to do it the instant offers, and that's fine, but the economics only work if you're in an inflationary. Housing prices always go up. You can make an offer, and most likely you get burned on it because the government's going to keep inflating the money supply. Like that could types of ways to make the experience for the consumers better is okay, but it only works in this environment. Like we need stuff that works because it works, not because we're in an artificial continually blowing up. We need stuff that works even when the bubble pops. So, I mean, I've always felt that something huge is going to come along and radically changes the real estate experience. And like agents or anybody that has ties to this world, you got to be very careful. Not careful, but aware and flexible because, James, you talk about blockchain escrow and things like that. I mean, their time is up. Their time is limited. Let's put it that way. Their time is not up, but they are the blockbuster, and you can see Netflix on the horizon, right? It's like, what are you going to do about it? Well, they're probably going to do nothing about it because they're going to protect their turf until they go down with the ship, right? That's the way the nature goes. They're the big title companies and are not the ones that are going to be jumping into blockchain title and escrow because they're going to fight it tooth and nail. It's going to be just people. It's just going to bubble up from the bottom. People are going to start doing it. It's going to be basically a gray or illegal at first. People are going to figure it out. Like you said, James, there is no user manual for stuff. So people are just going to start tinkering, which is awesome. Like that's exactly how innovation happens. So I am excited about that kind of stuff. It does have the potential though to change the value position of why agents are valuable because agents are valuable in large part because we stand between the consumer and all the friction that's happening behind the scenes. If half that friction goes away, half of your reason for being goes away.
Well, I mean,
as agents,
think about that,
and maybe half the commission.
Real estate agents are kind of like divorce attorneys. They mediate, between the two sides and keep everybody calm. And when you said you're looking for something, wonderful to come into real estate, I'm here. What are your other two wishes? I mean, what are you looking for?
That is not how I put it, Greg, but sure, why not? All right. But anyway, those are my brief thoughts on all this stuff. So, James, what's the best way to just kind of get into your world, learn more about you, learn more about the agencies that you run, and maybe hire you?
Well, you can't just hire me first and foremost. We only referral based. But we have created an ecosystem called the Circle of Excellence. You do have to apply for it. And inside that, we discuss everything, from mindset to business growth. I'm just at a place where our industry have way too many gray areas in a sense of awareness of what we should know. Something simple as financial literacy is it's not even a conversation. Like you're making money and don't even know what to do with the money, right? So those are the things we discuss. So, I mean, if that's something you guys are interested in, I mean, if you look up ZillowKiller, you can find me just about everywhere. And I'm very, very intentional about what I post. I'm not posting for the sake of posting or attention. I make my money from my agency, so I don't need to, hey, look at me now, right? I use it as distribution, like I suggest everyone else to do. So that's the best way to connect with me.
Awesome.
And by the way, James, I want to give a quick plug for you. You do some. Are you still doing? I believe you are. I'm going to ask the question. You're doing live classes on
Or the
with
boot camps.
ZillowKiller, right? And the thing I love the most about this twofold. One, you give people an incredible opportunity to learn how to develop their own lead generation. You take money out of your own pocket and you put it real time into the students and create leads right away. And all the money that you charge, which is it's a nominal fee. How much do you charge per person?
Like 195
195. That money goes to a children's
charity.
organization.
Yeah, we send it all to different
That's awesome.
charities.
That is fucking insane. I mean, guys, this is why I love this guy. This is why I rep his shit all over the place, is because I believe in who he is and the person and the character that he brings to the world in this industry. We need more people like James. Imagine if you were able to go out there, create a course, give the money back to an organization you believe in, and then be able to teach people real time on what you're showing them, not theoretical, but actual, actions that you can put into their business. So, guys, go reach out to James in any way, shape, or form. You can find him, ZillowKiller, Circle of Excellence. By the way, it's an incredible group to be a part of. And get in touch with his agencies. They will bring value to you, and I'll put my name on that one right there, without a doubt. Matt, you have created an incredible piece of art. It's my mural, and people can bid to buy it. And I really appreciate you doing all your drawings. But you've also written a phenomenal book called Micro Famous, and the book Micro Famous that you wrote is, I mean, I mess with Matt all the time, but guys, it is a really good book. I mean, it is a really well written piece of literature. The content in there you can really put into actionable steps for your life. Matt, where can they get a copy of this book so they can read it as well?
Digital copies at getmicrofamous.com, which also gets you on dates and the podcast episodes and the stuff that I'm doing, or grab a copy on Amazon. And then Greg,
Yes, sir.
so people should reach out to you, because if they're interested in getting into really partnering with us on so getting into a brokerage where it's completely digital, it's really the future of real estate, and you can build passive leveraged income in a lot of different ways. There's even things that I'm still finding out about that it continues to get better. And so if you're looking for a way to actually build things into your real estate career that will freedom in both your life and your career and allow you to work less, make plenty of money, support yourself and your family. So leveraged income, investment incomes, equity, all that kind of stuff. So reach out to Greg. Greg, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Matt, the number that haunts your dreams is what?
It's 925-915-1978.
That is the right number, guys. Or DM me on Facebook or DM me on Instagram. Facebook, Greg McDaniel. Instagram, Greg McDaniel, REU for Real Estate Uncensored. Love to get in conversation and fellowship with everybody who's watching and listening to our beautiful, wonderful voices. Matt, I have a very important question for you, and I've never asked you this before, but it has to be asked. And James, I need you to do the same thing. Gentlemen, this is critical to the United States of America. I need a color for the bow on the show. Matt, what's your color?
Let's go with
James, what's your color?
Always black. Always black.
All right, we'll do
orange.
black.
Orange. That's fantastic.
Orange and black. Hey,
Oh,
that's a
and it's
good color.
October.
There we go. There we go.
Very
All right.
festival.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and listening to this podcast and video. We love you to pieces. I mean, we could not do the show without you. Seriously, we could not do this without you. Please go out there and give us a 5-star, not a 2-star review on anywhere that you watch or listen to the podcast. Please give a shout out to James, #ZillowKiller. Reach out to him for any and all needs that you may have from what you've learned from this show. Reach out to Matt, get a copy of his book, maybe sign up for his podcasting company as well if you want to kind of do what we're doing. But we love you to pieces. And until next time, peace out, ninjas. We're gone.